Grand Strand, but in the world. He's been featured in Forbes magazine, the Wall Street Journal, NBC, and many other publications. And now, the Expert Advantage Real Estate Show with Blake Sloan. It is that time again, the Expert Advantage Real Estate Show with Blake Sloan. Welcome into the show. Coming up in just moments, we're going to be talking to Blake Sloan to find out what all the latest info is. As you listen to the next 30 minutes, and I know you will, you'll have some great questions that you'll want to ask Blake. You'll say, how can I get these questions answered? Well, you can start by giving Blake a call. It's Sloan Realty Group. That's the easiest way. His phone number is 843-808-SOLD, 843-808-SOLD. Or you can go online to the website, which is blakesloan.com, blakesloan.com. We'll repeat that contact information several times over the next 30 minutes in case you missed it that time. In the meantime, like I said, we'll get it started. Here he is, Blake Sloan.
Good morning, everyone. Got an awesome brand new show. Ton of great stuff we'll go over today. Special guest in the studio with us, Mr. Jeremy Knabb, who's one of our top listing partners on our team. Absolutely crushed it. He put 9 under contract last week, and so we're going to talk to him about. Pretty crazy, huh?
Yeah, that's amazing.
The average agent in our MLS sells 3.47 per year. A year. And so that's just kind of the comparison there of how we operate, what we do. So we'll talk to him about kind of what we do, what makes us different, some of the actual success stories that he can kind of share from his side, which is really cool. We'll talk about that. We have the official market numbers in from last month. And so they're actually looking pretty decent compared to how they were. They kind of, like I said, went up a little bit since we had the preliminary last week overall, which is great. We're going to talk about 5 reasons why you need to love a real estate agent in terms of, that's along with the old Valentine's Day theme. But it's super cool. It's an article that came out that I thought was very powerful overall. And it talks about a lot of pieces that people miss. And it's actually true to me because I bought my house from someone who represented themselves, and they cost themselves a whole lot more money by representing themselves, and they sure save in commission. So we'll talk about that as well. We have a really cool update on artificial intelligence I talked to you all about. Crazy stuff that the conversations are going about, and how it reacts to it, and how it just books appointment after appointment and helps serve people 24 hours a day, which is very powerful. As usual, some awesome brand new success stories I'm very thankful for, very happy about, and we'll talk about those with Jeremy here in a few minutes.
All right, sounds good. We're just getting started on the show here today, but if you're just tuning in for the very first time and you're wondering who this guy is, well, Blake Sloan's been called the Real Estate Whiz Kid. He's been featured in Forbes magazine, Wall Street Journal, Realtor magazine, other national publications. Maybe you've seen him on TV with NBC or on the morning show with Fox and Friends. He's been personally endorsed on this very radio station from Sean Hannity, Glenn Beck, Barbara Corcoran, Gary LaVox, and others. Put all of those together, unprecedented in the real estate industry, especially in this market. Now, we also find out from week to week about the trademark systems that Blake Sloan has for you. And if you're trying to buy, you're trying to sell, it doesn't matter. He will help you out with those systems. But the thing is, he's not just going to give that information away for free. You got to sign up with Blake, and you got to be part of what's going on with him. But he will at least tell you what the most important part of his systems are, and that's something you will give away for free.
Yes, and that's something that, basically to learn more, to reach out anytime to us. And this is kind of the point of my show, and what the why for me is, an ultimate cause behind what we do, because obviously there's a lot of time and prep and everything goes into this, but it comes down to the single most important variable that determines your failure or success as a home seller. It comes down to one thing only. And it has to do with the agent that you choose, period. And it really has to do with how they execute. And so, for example, in selling a property, there's 118 different variables from A to Z. If each one's handled correctly, guess what that does? That puts money in your pocket. The property actually gets sold. If any of those are handled incorrectly, aka the ball gets dropped, that costs you money, right? Or the property does not sell, which happens a lot of times. And like Dave mentioned a few shows ago, a lot of times people wait till it fails to sell before they call us, right?
Yeah.
Call us first, and so you're able to be able to obviously avoid that, because the reality is any of those balls are dropped. For example, someone calling on your house to buy it, and there's the agent can't answer the phone, or doesn't answer the phone, or does not call them back. That's something that obviously would make sure that you're going to drop that ball and going to cost you money. And so we have proven systems that what we did is basically we identified every single one of those variable points and create a system that's proven and repeatable that creates maximum leverage at every single point. So it's like stacking the dominoes. You start out domino 1, domino 2, domino 3, and there's small gaps in each one of those, but you add all those up, it creates a massive gap between us and everyone else. Like I mentioned all the time, it's like running a marathon. Everyone takes off at the same time, but somehow some finish 2 and 3 hours ahead of other people, right? Yep. The same exact thing that we do with those variables in the home selling process. It's called the guaranteed sold system. The only proven system sells twice as fast and for up to 21% more money than traditional methods. And obviously for the buyer side, it's the same exact thing. There's different variables, 100 plus different variables, usually the opposite of the seller side, right? Because you got the buyers. And what we did is we basically reverse engineered every single one of those to give maximum leverage to our client, which, to translate that, gives you a competitive advantage, right? It's called the Unfair Advantage Home Buying System. Gets you priority access to foreclosures, distress sales, desperate sellers, the absolute best negotiation when you're buying, aka price, and also in the home inspection negotiation. That example where I was mentioning with my house, I basically gave them they were representing themselves.
Right.
We did a home inspection, 43 pages came back. Right, gave it to them. I was gonna ask for maybe $5,000.
Right.
They offered me $25,000. Like, okay, cool. Well, we'll take it. Yeah. And so the reality is, like, those details matter. Having your data, having a breakdown, and that's just an example of me personally, which I'll talk about in the show here before. But the bottom line is, the agent that you choose matters, right? And how they execute actually matters. And we'll talk about that in today's show as well. But both of those, both the buyer system, the Unfair Advantage Home Buy system, and the Guaranteed Sold system, give our clients a huge competitive advantage when they're buying or selling a home. So anyone out there, make sure that you are aware of that and that you have someone who has a system in place to give you that advantage.
All right, sounds good. We're just getting started on the show. Coming up in just a minute, we'll be looking at the real estate update to see what the numbers are looking like. What's selling, what's not, and where is it selling? We'll find out in just a second. Also, the interest rates. We'll find out what the mortgage rates are looking like. That's some of the most important numbers you're going to be hearing all weekend. Buying or selling, it doesn't matter. You need to be listening to the Expert Advantage Real Estate Show with Blake Sloan. And call Blake at his office at Sloan Realty Group, 843-808-SOLD, 843-808-SOLD.
I'll lead where I'll just ask questions. I'll wing it.
Myrtle Beach, the national marketing plan of the realtor that you choose is absolutely critical. Now, that's exactly why you need to talk to Blake Sloan at Sloan Realty Group. Now, Blake has a marketing system on a whole different level than anyone else in Myrtle Beach that's so effective at capturing local and buyers from around the world that he can guarantee to sell your home at a price and a deadline that you agree to, or Blake's going to buy it. While most agents rely on yard signs and open houses that attract the occasional buyer, Blake attracts hundreds of buyers each month, which creates demand and helps your property sell fast and for top dollar. Now, that's why on average, Blake sells a property every single day of the year and is ranked among the top 100 agents in the entire U.S. by the Wall Street Journal. Now, working with Blake is risk-free. Now, if you're not happy, Blake gives you the freedom to cancel your contract and pay nothing. So give Blake a call today at 808-SOLD. That's 808-SOLD. Or just go online and see Blake's interview on NBC at blakesguaranteed.com.
Hi, I'm Barbara Corcoran. To sell your home on time for the most money, you need a sharp agent with a marketing strategy that creates the most demand. Bottom line, you need a partner willing to put their own money on the line for you. In Myrtle Beach, I would hire Blake Sloan. His international marketing creates so much demand that if your home doesn't sell at a price and deadline you agreed to, Blake will buy it. Partner with the agent I trust. Go online or call and get your home sold.
The Expert Advantage Real Estate Show with Blake Sloan. Coming up in just a second, we'll find out what the mortgage rates are looking like this week. But we know that we've got some new updates on what's happening in the real estate market. So, Blake, what's it looking like up there?
Yes, so we got some great news. Actually, remember we talked about last week's show was like the preliminary. All right, there we go. Sorry. Some great news in. Sorry, I had my mic down there. Great news from the overall marketplace from closed sales. Remember last week, actually, we had a decline in sales, but we were still waiting for all of the realtors to put their data in, right? AKA a house sold in January, but they didn't put the information in yet. And so the reality is they did. Usually about the 10th of the month is when it's good, and we're very, very close right there. So long story short, last month, single-family home sales up 2.9%. Awesome news. The first, actually, in a few months that we've seen an increase in sales, which is awesome. It has to do, I think, with some of the temperatures, everyone kind of coming down. If you look at both new construction and resale, it's a 5% decline, so it's important that you obviously segment those out to look at the data. If you look at new construction last month, new construction was down 19%, and so that kind of drags it together. Most important one I look at to help determine our marketplace, as a whole is resale homes. Why is that? Because that's what the majority of people are, right? So last month there were 358 home sales, up 2.9% from the same month last year, which is great news. The more important part, right? What's the price of my house? And price of homes up last month, up 10.7% for resale. So double-digit growth for price, which is great. This is amazing news for us right now compared to a lot of the places in the country that are getting their butts kicked right now from both sales aka the amount of properties sold, and also prices. So great news there. Median price $210,250, which is awesome news there in that regard. Days on market actually dropped last month overall, which is pretty good. In that part, we're down 5.3%, 126 days on average to sell. And supply stayed exactly flat. So right now, we're looking at 5.0 months inventory. So it's a great opportunity for sellers because if you remember, 5.0 months is pretty much the lowest it's been. The last time it was this low was in January 2018. And so right now, when you see a huge spike in buyers, well, not a huge, but a significant spike, and less inventory, it's a good opportunity for you as a home seller because there's not the masses on now. When you wait till springtime, which is what the most people think they should do, guess what? There's going to be more competition out there that will, supersede the 2.9% increase where it was in sales. And so that's just something to keep in mind overall in that regard, which is super powerful. Like I said, new construction overall, the one thing for sales price, new construction up 15.3% at $274,627. So that's just something kind of interesting to see with that much of a decline in sales. Some has to do with inventory where they could not finish during the hurricane, which has delayed some of that, right? We've had some that were supposed to close months ago and are finally just closing now in that regard. And the one thing there, days on market taking about 4.1% longer. Average days on market for a new construction home is 180 days. And so overall looking good, especially for January. Our team kicked butt for sure. But looking at resale condos, if you look at resale condos, they were actually up 7.1% last month with 333 of those sold. If y'all remember, looking back, we had the trifecta, right? We had home sales were down, new construction, resale, and condos. Now, the cool thing is resale homes back up slightly, 2%, and also condos up 7.1%. And so we're seeing kind of like a little bit of a lifeline reflection here. I think we'll see some ups and downs in the next few months. But again, we're definitely seeing a lot better numbers in a lot of the country as overall, which is great. Into price, it stayed flat for condos last month. Literally the same exact percentage it was the same month a year ago. $132,500, which is important to look at there overall. And the month supply was up 2%. So there's 5.1 months of inventory for condos in the marketplace. And so overall, what that means is anything below 6 months, like I mentioned earlier, is a seller's market. What's helping us here with the prices, how have sales been so slow the past 3 or 4 months and prices still continue to kind of go up? It has to do with inventory. When you're at 5 months, that's very low. And so if you see that spike up to 6 months or above, it starts moving back towards the buyer's market. We've seen softening. We'll talk to Jeremy in a few minutes about that. But we've seen some softening overall in regards to just the amount of buyers buying things. And so we'll talk about that as well. One thing kind of driving that, as we know, is interest rates. And so the cool thing that's really helped January, if you look at January's numbers in last week's show I talked about, we hit a 1-year low in interest rates. And so last week's show was at 4.43%. Right. That week dropped back down, which has helped fueling some of this recovery here for us, which is great news. But this week, not much different, 4.45%. So staying pretty steady where it was. A 15-year fixed rate, 4.06%. And just to kind of compare, last week is about 4.08. 30-year FHA right now, 4.14%. A jumbo loan is 4.30%, and a 5-year adjust rate mortgage is 4.37%. So overall, great luck there. I don't want to say luck, but great reflection from interest rates kind of helping us stay steady in the marketplace. So I'll keep watching what happens. Obviously, everybody knows it's going to creep back up through the rest of the year, but great time to get your household because people are coming down. Obviously, it's been fairly warm for the most part compared to a lot of places up north. We've seen that online searches spike whenever it's super cold up north, which is kind of really good for us, obviously.
Sure. All right, we've still got a long way to go as far as the show is concerned. Coming up in just a minute, we'll check out what your hot buyers alert is for the week, find out how many people are in the market looking for your home, success stories, and as Blake said, we do have a special guest in the studio with us this week as well. It's all coming your way in just a second. Hang on for that. Call Blake at his office to find out more about what you're hearing here. 843-808-SOLD, 843-808-SOLD. Go to Sloan Realty Group or go online to blakesloan.com. That's blakesloan.com.
Do you want your home sold on time and for the most money without all sorts of excuses? Hi, it's Glenn Beck, and when I had to sell my home, I went through several agents who all had good ideas, but the bottom line is they couldn't get the job done. Well, you have a celebrity in your hometown. If I lived in Myrtle, I would call Blake Sloan of Sloan Realty Group. Blake has a marketing system that reaches buyers from around the U.S. and around the world, and week after week,
I'll turn the mic up to keep it quiet.
That creates incredible demand, and That's why he
Yeah, screw that one up there.
Yeah, you're a little high on yourself too. So for him, his mic's a little hotter than yours, so probably about there.
Okay.
You walk away really clear. It's really no wonder why Sean Hannity and I, along with real estate tycoon and Shark Tank star Barbara Corcoran, endorse Blake. Call Blake Sloan right now. 808-SOLD. That's 808-SOLD. Or visit Blake's website. That's blakesguarantee.com. blakesguarantee.com. Or listen to Blake's Real Estate Show every Saturday morning at 9 or Sunday morning at 11:30 right here on WRNN.
The Expert Advantage Real Estate Show with Blake Sloan. Call Blake, just like you heard Glenn Beck talk about. The phone number is 808-SOLD. So easy to remember, 843-808-SOLD. Or go online to blakesloan.com, blakesloan.com. Coming up in just a minute, we've got some fantastic success stories and a special guest in the audience, or the studio rather, today. And right now it's time for your Hot Buyers Alert. Blake and his team, as you heard a second ago, working with so many people looking for homes in this market. They need inventory right now. So if you're anywhere in the Myrtle Beach area and you've got a home that's valued between $150,000 to $3.5 million, they want your home right now. If you're even thinking of selling, call Blake at that number I told you, 808-SOLD, 843-808-SOLD. How many people are looking for homes? Thousands. 51,973 at last count, almost hitting that 52,000 mark of people who are actively looking for homes in the Myrtle Beach area on a daily, sometime even hourly basis.
Yes, like right now on the site. I mean, everywhere. And that's one thing, they're from all over. Right now, Allison Stein from State College, PA, is on the site right now, which is interesting. We got Karen Newlands from Indian Trail, North Carolina on the site, Stephen McDonough, Houston, Texas, Philip and Cheryl Porter from Spartanburg. We got Peggy Case from Trenton, South Carolina. I'm not sure where that is. Any of Trenton, South Carolina?
I've heard of it, but I don't know where it is.
And last one here is a very interesting place. I'm not even sure. Tamakawa, PA. And that's Sherry Benning. So big shout out to them, right? But the reality is these are people everywhere. And the reason I want to call that, so you can see these are real people, like username, password, account. We spend massive amounts of money driving traffic from buyers all over the globe, really. And I think that's what has us a huge advantage, because with our business model, it allows me to spend more money to acquire clients because we have a team set up. We're not a traditional brokerage. We're kind of what we call a hyper model, where I just looked at what people did outside of real estate and duplicated that in the real estate business. Unfortunately, in real estate, a lot of times they still operate like we call an 8-track tape. We're more like an iPad 2 in a world of those 8-track or cassette tapes. And so the reality is we can outspend the average agent 100 to 1 from a marketing standpoint. And so you're spending $10,000 a month just driving traffic online. And that's how we have almost 52,000 buyers. With technology, it matches up buyer and seller. And so that's something that's super powerful as well. So why do we talk about that? Because like we talked about, your agent matters, the system they use matters, all these things matter, right? That's what helps bring results. And when we got that much skin in the game, to the tune of over $200,000 a year plus just in basic marketing, we're bringing in lots and lots and lots of buyers, which helps us help sellers more because we can match up buyer and seller. And so that's something that we even worked to develop technology that will take it's basically an algorithm that will take any new listing we get and reverse engineer the most likely buyer for that property based on previous search patterns. And so very, very powerful stuff. We'll talk about it in a second. When we bring Jeremy in. And real quick, I got a couple success stories, and he has one as well. And so one super cool. I just want to go ahead. Is that cool to go ahead and go into that?
Absolutely.
All right, yeah. So very powerful. I'm super proud of here. And she obviously, her husband unfortunately passed away. She needed to sell her home that they owned together in Pawleys Island because she was going to move in with family, and obviously needed to the whole challenge there was they need to get a strategy to help them get maximum dollar to basically get out the equity they had, right? And so we came in, helped design a plan, launched our Global Marketing Blitz professional photos, drove massive traffic, and just a few days in the market, had an offer on the home. Now she's able to move with family and extract maximum amount of equity out of the property to be able to have a solid life going forward. And so those are one of the things in many different cases. We have all kind of different situations and cases that we tailor our system around based on what somebody needs. We always say it's like a balancing act between selling it faster and getting more money. Most of the time, we're trying to get the most amount of money. We can balance between the two, which is one of our biggest advantages. And so one thing I want to try to bring in is Mr. Jeremy Nab. What's up, man?
Hey, how's it going?
So he's one of our top agents on our team, one of my listing partners, business partner with me, and absolutely crushing it. And so you've kind of seen that. You had a couple of success stories too. But what are you seeing? And you're just kind of, he's super humble, but the reality is you put 9 under contract last week,
Yeah, absolutely.
And what was that like? Pretty chaotic, obviously.
Yeah, it was a crazy week, but honestly, those are the fun weeks. Really, we're able to service our clients to the best of our ability, and obviously, selling homes is exactly what they hire us to do. So.
And what do what were you seeing right now in the marketplace overall?
So in January and really even the first part of February so far, we have seen an increase in the amount of buyers in town, which is a good thing. At the same time, obviously they're very educated. With the internet these days, it's really easy to find out, what's selling, what's on the market now. So, they're out there, they're buying, and, they're fairly intelligent these days too. So.
Right. And so one thing that you see all the time, and just kind of, so people just hear me talking about it over and over, week after week, when you go in, like, what's it like working on our team? Ultimately down to the intensity, training, and things like that.
So one of my favorite parts about working with Sloan Realty Group is the amount of training that we are offered on a daily basis. Every single day we have something going on to better ourselves, which in turn obviously works to get the best out of what we can do to help our clients.
And that's one thing that I forgot. I bring up sometimes on here, but I'm constantly flying around the country to learn and study and invest a tremendous amount of money in coaching 2 different coaches, one outside of real estate, one inside real estate. So we're able to kind of give ourselves competitive advantage, but ultimately give our client a competitive advantage. And, we're pretty intense in that too, right? Would you agree?
Oh, very intense.
And talk about, just so anybody knows, like, the difference of, because everybody listens week after week and they're like, oh yeah, everybody kind of talks about, how good you are, like anybody that's online, like saying like me or whatever. What's the comparison of like when people actually see the guaranteed sold system and what we do compared to what other agents have? Like, what's the reaction you see?
Yeah, so when I actually meet with folks, I think they have a perception that, okay, maybe we are a little bit different, but until I actually sit down with them and spend the time to go through in detail exactly what we do, at that point, they're pretty much blown away with the technology that we have and the systems that we set in place. Once I go through in detail, they fully understand and truly see the difference between us and, like you said, 99% of all the agents that are out there.
Right, and that's one thing. If you look at the numbers last year, there were 16,000 sides, which means like basically, buyer and seller. 4,800 agents. Do the math on that. I think it's 3.47 per agent. So the reality is there's just not a lot of resources for most people. And so what you're finding is they're doing the 3 Ps, right? They promise the world to get the listing, whether it be a friend or a referral, whatever it is, right? They put it into the MLS with a few pictures. Some are great, some aren't great. And then they pray someone brings a buyer. And then they spend all their time hunting down a new listing as well, which makes a big, big difference. And so the reality is, right, how your team executes and all the things that have to be done. You got a big team behind you that helps back that up too from a technology standpoint.
Absolutely. We have 15 agents who are grinding every single day out there looking for buyers and doing it nonstop. And
matching up constantly, saying, hey, look, dude, we got the new listing. And they're matching up buyers to our listings because they get paid more money. Imagine that, right? They get paid more money to sell listings. And so that's one thing that, and Jeremy had a situation this week where someone called us and they asked this question, right? And I'm just going to go there, I guess, right? This guy was like, hey, how many agents do you have? And we told him, like, hey, look, we're a team model. Here's what it is. But we sell, more with 15 to 20 agents than some do with 200. And but he had this obsession with wanting to know how many agents were in the company. Right. That's the most backwards, I can't even say that real word on there,
I know what you're going to say.
Right? Something backwards way of picking agent you possibly could. Because here's why. When I worked at 2 big box stores before. I worked at both Coldwell Banker and Remax, great companies. But the reality is I was a single agent amongst a big ocean of other agents who not only did not care what I did, they didn't want me to sell. They didn't want to sell my listings because they didn't want to see me do better than them. I mean, this is true. I mean, I experienced so many things in this business from a culture standpoint, which is why we built ours the way we did, that they would, if I had a lead on the phone, and I would say their phone number, I had them write the phone number down over the cubicle and call the lead behind my back. Wow. And so when you talk about that, and I think, Jeremy, you asked the guy, like, why do you want to do that? And he's like, oh, I have 200 people, selling my home. Like, dude, no, guess what? The other 199 don't give a blank about your house. Is that not right? I mean, anybody in the industry kind of knows that. And so these are like small details that people kind of create these stories in their head of why they should do things a certain way. But the reality is, like, you have to have alignment from a business standpoint and a culture. And one of the ways we did when I designed the company is I incentivize our agents. They get an extra percentage, extra 5% actually, to sell listings. And so I wanted them to know 2 things. I wanted them to know, 1, what listings do we have? and two, to be able to take that extra effort to show the listings, or at least share it with somebody that they have. And so we have almost 52,000 buyers. I want them to focus on how do we match up buyer and seller, because even the buyers, when they're searching out there, right, it's overwhelming because there's so many out there. So many types of listings from different areas. And so it takes sometimes tailoring that to what about this area, or just sharing it with them. And so that's something super powerful there as well. What are some big mistakes you see, overall, Jeremy? Anything out there that you've seen or feedback? Or you said also you had a couple cool success stories. What you got about that?
Yeah, so two big success stories real quick. One is Tom and Susan. They've been radio listeners for years now, and they actually recently purchased a home up in Longs, new construction, and they still own their home in Myrtle Beach. So they contacted us and said, hey, look, here's the deal. We have 2 homes now. We don't want to pay 2 mortgages. We can only afford to do that for so many months. So we came in, like I said, implemented our global marketing blitz, and literally within 48 hours, we drove massive amounts of traffic, had 5 offers, and they ended up accepting an offer above asking price. So now they're able to move on and basically don't have to worry about paying 2 mortgages, enjoy their new home.
And this happens like over and over and over, and that's why I thought it was cool to have Jeremy on today, just to share one of the many stories that we have, and so you can kind of see a different perspective, right? Where it's not just Blake on here, kind of talking about what happened, this happened, or anything else. Anything else you wanted to share, like success story wise?
Yeah, another one I had this past week is James up in Loris. He has a beautiful home on 2 acres of land out there, and again, he's another radio listener with us too, and he's decided that he wants to move on to a different area where his family is, and he needed to sell his home and sell it pretty quickly because he didn't want to miss out any more time with his family. So I sat down with him, spoke with him a little about what we do, and then at the end we went over pricing. And I asked him, so I said to him, how much do you think your home is worth? And he told me a certain number, and I said, after going through the numbers, I said, hey James, your home is actually worth a good bit more than that.
Yes. Okay.
So this is a case here where we were able to go in and actually go through and show him, hey, you can get more money. So within 2 weeks, again, we drove massive traffic and had an offer for $40,000 more than what he originally thought he can get for his home.
That's a cool example. How much time? 1 minute?
Just about a minute.
Okay, that's a perfect example of like people who make these mistakes all the time. Like this dude left $40,000 on the table. So if you had some investors might buy it out, they're gonna take that money from you. But how many people out there, for sale by owner, want to save a percentage of a listing commission and leave $40,000 on the table, right? And thankfully for us, our system is designed so we know the data, we can push the limit of where it needs to be. And so if you're thinking about selling, right, you've heard this show over and over, or you have somebody that's thinking about selling, the minute you hear them mention it, reach out to them and say, look, you got to call Blake Sloan, 843-808-SOLD.
That is the number, 843-808-SOLD, to talk to Blake Sloan or to talk to anybody in the office there, and you'll be happy that you did. You hear all the success stories, act on them. Don't just sit there and go, I ought to call.
Yes.
843-808-SOLD, that's the phone number. BlakeSloan.com, that is the web address. Either one will get you there, and you can talk to Blake about anything that you've heard here today. Blake, thanks for everything. Another great show next week.
Yes, sir. I'll be here.
Absolutely. All right. It's the Expert Advantage Real Estate Show with Blake Sloan.
Hey, Myrtle Beach, it's Gary LaVox.